you know?
Right, okay.
So, Chrissie, you were telling me yesterday about Charles of Varos. Well, where is Varos?
Well, the Ross is in Tammany. You'll see it, you could find it on the map. And Uncle Charles lived there in a very lovely house overlooking Mulroy Bay. And he used to come and see us a lot. He used to walk, and we used to look forward to him coming because he'd always bring a big packet of sweets. So we would all be waiting for him to come. But I don't really know. He had a farm in the Ross, and it was left to Uncle Charles. It was left to my brother Charles. When Uncle Charles of the Ross died, he would inherit the farm in the Ross. But Uncle Charles died, and the farm. Let me get this straight now. Uncle Charlie died, and the farm went to my brother Charles, who had died in an accident on the farm, and then when Daddy's two sisters, Hannah and Cassie, went to court to get something. They wanted their share of the farm. So Daddy had to sell the farm to pay them, to give them money from Uncle Charlie's farm. And
Do you remember when he died?
no,
Uncle Charlie?
I was too small. I can't remember when he died. But I know that there was this big thing that Daddy had to sell the farm at the Ross, because Hannah and Cassie wanted their share of the farm. And it wasn't in the will or anything. In the will it had been left to our brother Charles, but when he died...
Your little brother who died when he was 3.5?
Yes, it would have gone to him.
Yes.
But it should have gone to him. But you see, there was no point in that, because Hannah and Cassie, well, he had to sell it to get the money to pay them off.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how much he sold it for. I was very little, so I don't know very much about it at all.
And do you know where he's buried, Big Uncle Charlie?
Well, he must be buried at Massmount. But where, I don't...
I thought you said yesterday there was a little cemetery.
Oh, there was. There was in Tammany. Don't
talk too loud because your voice is so bad.
Yeah. In Massmount graveyard, there was a family tomb. And I believe he was buried there in the family tomb. And the family, I do remember the family tomb. I remember going with my mother there, and she used to tidy it up and put some flowers on the tomb. I used to be quite frightened because there was the stone that went across the top. There was a gap between that and the tombstone. And I used to be really frightened. I thought that they could see us out through this hole in the roof. So but really, as far as I know, that's all I can remember. I can remember coming to the house and bringing big bags of sweets, and but that's about as much as I remember of him. But I believe he was a very nice man.
And what do you remember of your mother? Tell me about her.
Well, my mother was a wonderful person, and she was treated very, very badly by Hannah and Cassie because they didn't approve of her to start with, because Mummy had been, when you needed to employ people, when people were looking for work, it happened to everybody because there were no telephones, no newspapers, no way of contacting anybody. So if you wanted someone to help in the house or even on the farm, you would go to the Milford Fair. And the Milford Fair they used to have once a year. No, once a month. And I think that is where Daddy met Mummy, was at the Milford Fair. And then he brought her home, and she was looking after Daddy's first wife's 3 young children. But, I mean, as far as I was concerned, I never really knew. She made no difference. I never really knew that they were, they were not our brothers and sisters. In fact, I think I was quite old before I knew that. And she was, well, as far as I was concerned, she was wonderful, because she had to work very, very hard, trying to keep the farm going and trying to look after us little ones. And there was no money, and it was very difficult. She had to rely on donations from, when Humphrey would send some money home. That was sort of the only extra money that she got. But she coped, and she really did do her very best. But I remember very well the morning that she was going, they wanted her to go over to Downing's for a break, for a holiday. And so everybody wanted her to go, and I was standing helping to get, she was so weak by then. I was standing at the bedroom window, and she was looking out at the loch. And she said to me, I'm never going to come back again. I'll never see this view again. And I said, don't be silly. Of course you'll be coming back. You're coming back next week. And she said, no, I'm not. I won't be coming back here again. And she knew, for some unknown reason, she knew she was going to die. And she died, of course, that night in Roskilde. And that was I couldn't face it. I went over, I think I was about 11 and a half. And I went over there, and I just could not face seeing her dead. And I remember Bree trying to force me to go into the bedroom where she was laid out, because everybody got laid out like that. And I wouldn't go in. And but then of course we came back to after the funeral, and we came back, and I was really lost, I suppose you would say. I was and then Humphrey was there, and he said I'm going to close the house up. And he just said, you and Chrissie are going to go to Edinburgh to live with Mummy's sister. I mean, Mummy's sister was very sweet. She was very good too.
What was her name?
Her name was Mary Carr. Well, married name was Mary Boyce. But I was desperately unhappy, because for us suddenly to go from the middle of the country and a beautiful surrounded in beautiful land, to a flat in the middle of Edinburgh, and I loathed it. I was desperately unhappy.
Did she have any children of her own?
Mary had 2. Yes, I used to help look after them. she was called Mary, and I can't remember what the boy was called. But then when we came, they said we were all going to come back for summer holiday, and of course then I was over the moon because we were coming back home. And that's when we came back, and I took Pat, because I was looking after Pat.
Pat was staying at a different aunt, was he?
Yeah, Pat was staying with Auntie Helen. And
What was her last name?
Helen, I don't know what her surname was. I honestly, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was staying with Auntie Helen, and suddenly we had been dumped. That was the best word for it. Humphrey took us to Scotland and sort of just handed us over at the railway station in Scotland. And well, it was like, I can't begin to tell you, it was just horrid. And I sort of looked after Pat as best I could. Then we came back for a holiday, and then Pat and myself, I took Pat, and we came back over, and I said, Pat, do you want to go back to Scotland again? And he said, no, I don't want to go back. I mean, he was only 8 or 9 then. And I said, no, and I don't want to go out. So I said, if I ask Rosie to look after you, will you stay there? And he said, if she wants me, I'll stay. And then I said, well, I'll ask Auntie Hannah. Because I won't talk anymore about it because it's quite upsetting.
Yes.
And I can't remember. I stayed there then until Humphrey came for me and brought me over to stay with Sheila. And
tell me that bit about when you went back, you were so unhappy in Edinburgh, and you were thinking of living at Ballyhernan?
I was thinking that we would just go into Ballyhernan, and I thought, well, the two of us can clean it all up and get some peats and that, and we could live there, just Pat and myself. And but then someone, must have been Rosie, said, no, you better not because you're underage, and the health people would come and put you into a home, which is probably true actually. And but then Auntie Hannah said I could live with her, so I went to live with Auntie Hannah at Newton, and that wasn't the happiest of times really. It wasn't very nice, and I left and went to you. So that was my life, my young life.
And what are your memories of your father?
I have very, very few memories of Daddy. Very few, because I was only 7 when he died.
Yeah.
So I really have I have very little memories of him. I do remember him being very angry with Humphrey. And when that happened, Mummy used to come between Daddy and Humphrey. But otherwise, I can't really remember anything about him because I was too young when he died.
Yeah. And what do you remember of Ballyhernan, the farm itself, living there?
I loved every minute of it. I really did. It was I loved it, and I still do, and I still get very, very uptight about the fact that what happened. But no, I loved Ballyhernan. It was a very happy place. You had all the freedom there. You could go anywhere, and it was just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, you go from somewhere very beautiful to somewhere very black and dark and horrible. And remember, it was just after the war as well, when we went to Edinburgh. So everything was very, I did seriously hate it. I really did. But that's about it, really. I mean, I loved, as far as I was concerned, Ballyheenan, well, it was the only place. I loved it there. I really did. And I tried to get Humphrey to sell it to me, sell it to us, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't hear tell of it. So I, even though we all tried to save it, we lost it in the end. And it was very, very sad. But that's time gone now, and everything is so very different.
Yes.
I suppose it changed when I came to live with Sheila and Bill and you and Kathleen, because that's what you were then when I arrived.
Thank you, Chrissie. Thank you. I hope I haven't given you laryngitis.